First step, measure the square footage of the area you're trying to repair. Write that number down. Use that number you just calculated. This will determine how much grass seed you're going to need. Before you apply the grass seed, prep the yard. Now apply the grass seed. Cover the grass seed. Apply fertilizer. Water the grass seed thoroughly for 3 weeks until it germinates and reaches about 2 to 3 inches, and it should look something just like this. So you've just witnessed the basic principles when it comes to lawn care repair or bare spot repair, which means you are now certified to do so. Apply what you learned here, out there, just like this. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. Today we're going to switch gears a little bit, and instead of talking about small engine repair, we're going to talk about, well, lawn care repair. Something a little bit I'm not too comfortable talking about, but this is so simple I think anybody could use it. But first, let's back up and reverse a little bit and see exactly how we got here and why we're here. So to bring you up to speed, we purchased this house about a year ago. We're about to hit our 1-year anniversary, and there's a little bit of a problem. There used to be a pool here. Yep, right here. This used to be a pool here, and before the previous owner sold us the house, they removed it, which is fine by me. Turns out that an in-ground pool is nothing more than a money pit, so I was okay with it. If you look closely, you can almost see the outline of where it used to be. Step 1, you need to calculate the square footage of the area you're trying to repair, and you also need to determine what kind of grass seed you're going to use. If you're trying to repair, you could use measuremylawn.com, and you could use the outline or the tools on the website to outline the square footage of the area you're trying to overseed or repair. This isn't accurate, but it'll get you in the ballpark. Now, first and foremost, it all starts with the quality of grass seed. You could buy a premium grass seed or you could buy a cheap grass seed. That being said, buy whatever you can afford because this could get out of hand pretty quickly. Also, pick a grass seed that's most commonly grown in your area or native to the area. Now, when you are picking a grass seed, just look at the tag and make sure you know what you're going to buy, especially if you're going to go with a less expensive or affordable grass seed. Also, beware if you do go with a less expensive grass seed, this may affect your germination rate. So when it's all said and done, just pick a grass seed that contains 0 weed seeds and doesn't have a large amount of inert matter. This is just filler. You also want as little crop seed as possible. Also, stay away from anything that contains annual rye. This is only going to work for 1 year, then you'll have to replant it. You want perennial rye. Here's a quick example side by side of a premium grass seed and a not so premium grass seed or affordable grass seed. Step number 2, you gotta prep the soil. This will determine our seed to soil contact. This will also determine how well our seed will germinate. This is also known as setting the bed seed. When prepping the soil, it's done in many ways, but the most common ways are dethatching, aerating, or verticutting. Now, in most cases, most people are going to dethatch or aerate. This is probably also the most overlooked step in the process. I'll be a victim of it too. I used to never dethatch or aerate, and I'm telling you right now, it's a world of difference. Now, the problem is, the average consumer does not have immediate access to an aerator, and dethatching manually by hand, it could be very labor intensive and it also could be a backbreaker. Another reason this gets overlooked is because if you have a lawn that looks good and looks immaculate, by the naked eye it looks great, but I promise you there's dead grass under there. I promise. You have to dethatch the soil. You have to dethatch your lawn. There is dead grass under there, I promise you. All right, say it out loud, Test. I will dethatch my soil this year. Here's a quick pro tip for you. If you have access to a riding lawnmower or you know someone that has one that you could borrow, I highly recommend you buy this dethatching tool. It's about $150 online or in store. You can find it at Home Depot, Lowe's, or Menards. Timeout, correction. You can find this on sale at Menards after the mail-in rebate. It also allows you to add weight, in this case cinder blocks, or you could use sandbags. This will let it dig deeper into the ground and also getting more of that dead grass up out of the ground. So once you're completing all the dethatching and getting all the dead grass up, go ahead and mow it up and bag it. I know it's a little labor intensive, but you want to bag these up. You don't want to put them back on the lawn. Make sure that you also have your lawnmower deck set to a lower setting, probably lower than you're comfortable doing. Next, you want to go ahead and level out the soil, or level out the area. Now, this can either be done with topsoil or sand. In this case, I'm using peat moss because if you use topsoil, sometimes you don't know where it comes from and it will contain weed seeds that you're not even aware of. So I lay down a thin layer of peat moss or field conditioner, and then I apply my grass seed. So once you're done leveling out the soil and you're happy with the results, go ahead and apply the grass seed. followed by fertilizer of your choice. Also, if you're using tall fescue, you need to double the amount of grass seed because it grows in bunches and doesn't spread. Don't be shy. Cover those bare spots thoroughly. Once you're done applying the grass seed and you've covered everything thoroughly and you've got those bare spots covered up with grass seed, go ahead and apply a top dressing of either peat moss or field conditioner. Now the first option is peat moss. It's more available for the average consumer. Field conditioner is like a clay deposit. It's a calcined clay. It's like little granules of clay and it works well too. For this video, I showed a side-by-side just to show you guys that both work very well. Now peat moss is going to act like a sponge and the field conditioner is more for like slopes or really heavy traffic areas, or if you're trying to like repair a muddy area, you'll use the field conditioner. But most people use peat moss. Once you're done applying your top dressing, go ahead and use a rake to level it out. So when it's all said and done, there should be about a 1/4 inch layer of top dressing and it should look like this. Remember, you want that seed to be thoroughly covered. Rule of thumb is, if you can see the seed, it won't germinate very well. So make sure it's thoroughly covered up. Step 4, water. You have to keep the soil moist and wet for 3 weeks until the seed germinates. This is by far the most important step when it comes to overseeding. You have to apply and you have to follow a very strict water schedule in order to have good results. Watering your yard manually, trying to keep this grass wet for 3 weeks is very tedious and not very efficient, especially if you don't have an in-ground irrigation system. I'm going to show you a couple tools that will make your job much easier. Now, first and foremost, you have to invest in a water timer. So the main reason why I say you need to invest in a water timer is because this is what I like to call a poor man's irrigation system. If you're like me, you can't afford an in-ground irrigation system for 4 acres, let alone 10,000 square feet. This is the next best thing. There's 2 types of water timers out there, or smart water timers. Bluetooth water timers like the one seen here, and Wi-Fi water timers. The do's and don'ts of picking a water timer is do not buy a Bluetooth operated water timer. The range and the connectivity on them are poor and trash. From my personal experience, you almost have to be within a foot radius in order to operate these. So I would really shy away from these Bluetooth controlled water timers. The only reason I would recommend a Bluetooth water timer is they're more affordable and less expensive. So the only water timer that I'm going to recommend is a Wi-Fi controlled water timer, and here's a couple reasons why. As long as you're hooked up to the internet, also Wi-Fi, you can control this thing from anywhere, home or office. It also supports cellular data too, which means it's going to automatically connect to your closest weather station, which means as long as the app sees that there is rain in the forecast, it's going to automatically shut down the water timer for you. This is going to save on your water bill and just overall water usage in general. How neat is that? Isn't technology awesome? Also, RainPoint's going to offer a soil sensor or moisture sensor, also a temperature sensor that actually goes in the ground, which is also hooked up to the internet and Wi-Fi, which means it will tell you, hey, I need water, or your garden or your flowers need watering. It's a game changer. Plus, you don't look like an idiot or that neighbor that's watering their yard when it's pouring down rain. No one wants to be that guy. All right, so the downside is to most of the Wi-Fi controlled water timers is you have to set up an account, which sounds silly, but it wants to determine your location so it can connect to your local weather station. Also, depending on which brand you buy, some apps are more user-friendly than others, so beware. RainPoint, a little too customizable. Beehive, great app to use. Next up, sprinklers. What kind of sprinkler should I buy? I'm going to tell you a little pro tip. If the sprinkler you currently own is watering the yard and keeping the yard wet, guess what? You're using the correct sprinkler. So that being said, buy whatever sprinkler keeps the yard wet. But there is one particular sprinkler that is near and dear to my heart, and that is the Quick Snap in-ground sprinkler. This thing is awesome. Plus, it's what I really defined as the poor man's irrigation system. So the way it works is basically you bury this thing underground, you leave the inlet out of the ground. That way you could pretty much quickly detach the hose, mow over the sprinkler, reattach the hose, and you never have to adjust the sprinkler again. The only time you adjust this thing is when you install it. After that, there's no readjusting, no re-aiming, no repositioning. You just bury it in the ground and forget about it. Alright, time for the results. This is 20 days deep into the germination, and as you can see, the grass is sprouted. It's about 2 to 3 inches tall, and this is the first cut after planting the grass seed. Keep in mind, you do need to bag these clippings for the first couple weeks or probably till the end of the season. Also, this grass is very new, so don't put a zero turn or riding lawnmower or anything heavy on the grass because it's still very new and very fresh. Also, at this point, you could go ahead and reduce the watering to twice a day, morning and evening. Alright, so you'll probably notice I got my jacket on, and that's because we're about 30 days deep into our overseeding. At this point of the season, the rains have returned. Also, the nights are getting colder and the days are getting shorter, so watering the yard is probably no longer needed. At this point, you could just let Mother Nature take over until spring. And finally, this is the most recent cut that I recorded before making this video. As you can see, the lawn's looking great. The grass roots are getting deeper and the lawn's looking healthier. What I really wanted to show you guys is that there are tools out there that will make your job easier without breaking your back when it comes to overseeding and lawn care repair. There's tools out there to help you. That goes for life in general. Folks, remember, I do these videos for viewers like you, so at least I hope you took away at least one thing or learned one thing from watching this video. I would love to know what you guys do. What's your procedure? What's your fertilizer? What kind of grass seed do you recommend? You guys know I'm open to comments and I try to reply best as possible. Like always, thanks for watching. I hope this helps.